Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, you've heard me say before, these are all companies I used as an athletic director. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We'd like to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. You know, your kids are on social media, and so are a lot of their parents. If they're not seeing content that helps celebrate their accomplishments and promote your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high schools and colleges. It's professional graphic design made simple. The Gipper team is going to have you creating content in seconds. Maybe it's a social media post to celebrate a victory. Maybe it's a newsletter to show off all the great things that your program, your coaches are doing. Either way, go to Gipper.com. Mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. We'd like to thank our good friends at Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. Whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is going to help you make the best online ticketing solution. Hometown Ticketing, it's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant AD did, along with hundreds of others, and it was a great experience. It's reasonably priced, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA for more information. The Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day, whether it's for scheduling, rosters, results. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. We want to thank our good friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an athletic director, I made sure that we were a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes love the videos. Our parents love the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you with that group so you can hear their concerns, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that support your program. And having that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're talking with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We're staying right here in Florida today, and our guest is Cameron Porch. Cameron's the head football coach at Trenton High School. That's in the Gainesville area. Just wrapped up a very successful season, a deep run into the playoffs. He is also a district representative for a group called the Florida Coaches Coalition. It's an organization very near and dear to us, and Cameron's going to share all that and more. But Cameron Porch, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
Well, we know it's a busy time, again, for our listeners. We're recording this early December, so it's going to be very, very timely when you hear it. Cameron, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests a little bit. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break, hear more about your career. But what's the Cameron Porch origin story?
Well, I'm a Florida boy. I'm from North Florida, Interlochen, Florida to be exact, which is about 20, 30 miles east of Gainesville. So most of my time has been spent in this area. I grew up there. My parents were both teachers in Interlochen. My entire family's from Putnam County. And so I went to school there, played football there, played all sports there. And then in my first 5 years coaching, I actually 4 head coaches, and it's time to go. I started to venture out kind of on my own and knew pretty early that coaching was what I was going to do, and I needed to see some other things and be around other players, staffs, and things like that. So I ended up going in 2010. I went to Santa Fe High School, old, and that was my first time kind of understanding that, I didn't know everything. Got thrown to the fire, and it was a good thing. It was really good. Failed a lot, had a lot of positive experiences, learned a lot from it. Left there and went to Gainesville High School for a year in 2011. That was my first real experience with athletes. We were loaded with athletes, made a big run to the Final Four that year, and got to be around a lot of big school football, good football. And after that, I went on to be head football coach for the first time. I was 26, and kind of like, when I was 24 and offensive coordinator at a big school, I thought I knew everything. I found out real quick I didn't again at 26. But it was the best, still to this day, 20 years in for me coaching. It's the best experience I've had as far as having to do everything and experience by fire. I was coach, I was trainer, I was doctor, I was dad, I was bill payer, I was everything, mentor. I wore every hat in the school, and it was great. It was great. I loved it. It was really, really hard, but because of it, I grew tremendously, not only as a coach, but as a person, and moved on from there. Went to Bradford High School for a year, and then another head coaching job in Orange Park at Ridgeview High School, and then ventured outside the state for the first time. Went to Georgia, and that was great. It was everything everybody said it was going to be. My wife wasn't able to move with me that year because of getting a promotion in her job, so I ended up coming back to Florida after a year to Mount Dora High School. Had a good little run there, first playoff win in school history. And then ended up here in Trenton. So my 4th head coaching stop. I'm kind of back closer to home now, which is, the Gainesville area. And we're getting rolling.
Well, I love your career story. Very, actually, very similar to mine. I was a head coach at 26 and had no business being a head football coach that young. The expression, you don't know what you don't know. Um, Going back to those early years as a coach, what were some things? And you talked about that long list that a head coach does, all those duties. But what was maybe a football thing that you found out, hey, I really don't know everything?
I mean, my first Friday night as a head coach, um, having to, go out to the field and realize that I forgot this laundry list of things to do to get everything prepped for Friday night. Normally it's on other guys or a bunch of guys, and I was just responsible for one or two things as an assistant, and then all of a sudden as a head coach, I'm supposed to give out the list for everybody. And so it was a lot of fun those first few weeks.
Right. I look back to that first year as a head coach. I was very fortunate. I had a couple of young assistants, but one of them, and I was young myself, but one of the assistants, his dad was a Hall of Fame small college coach in Oregon. Had coached for 30 years. He was on at every one of our practices, every one of our games, and so it was a great mentor for me. My next stop as a head coach, I didn't have that support system. How was your system at your first couple of jobs? Did you have some mentors, whether young or old, that helped you out?
Absolutely. My first principal as a head coach was John Lott. He was a former high school football coach. His dad was a Hall of Famer, Dub Palmer. Um, so he was great. He still to this day is the best principal I've worked for. He's phenomenal, supportive in every way. Good to have that guy that's on your side as an ex-football coach and knows the things that you're going to run into. And when he hired me and took a chance on me, he told me up front that there's going to be some things that I'm going to need help with, and a lot of questions I'm going to have, and he was willing to do that with me. I had a couple other guys, guy named James Roundtree, who played for Georgia Tech. He was the head football coach at Gainesville High School in the early '80s. He helped me out a lot. He's since passed away, but he was huge to have in my corner and make sure I didn't get too high or too low about certain things.
Let me go ahead and ask you this question again. You're still, early in your career, middle of your career. You got a lot of great years ahead of you. What are some things that you do as a head coach right now to help mentor your staff? Those young coaches, those eager coaches, they don't come to you as Hall of Fame coaches. We got to make them Hall of Fame coaches. What are some things that you do to help them on their journey?
Actually, the biggest thing that I like to do was done to me. Um, Let people fail, empower people, give them responsibility, even if there might be a better option at some point. It's not all about you and your success as a coach, but watching those around you grow and learn from mistakes as well. And that's how I've learned most everything up to this point is through failures. So setting people up to normally, when you give people a tall task, it motivates people to work harder to get it done. And we've got a couple of guys on our staff that are young, early, very, very early in their careers with coaching. And most of the guys on my staff are actually from Trenton. So it's good to see they've got that hometown pride. But when you give people that empowerment, they really strive to please people. And that's the way I was when I was first starting as well. And it's good to see, our DC, I think the day I asked him to be our defensive coordinator, I really shocked him. And he wasn't sure he wanted to take it. But I knew he's the one that I wanted to do it because I knew he would try to do a great job with all the small details. And that's the kind of people that, I want around me. And he's really done a good job growing that day.
Oh no, absolutely. And again, the better our assistant coaches are, the more they can do, the less that we have to do. It allows us to be better at whatever tasks we're responsible for on game night or during the week. Very important. Great stuff. Let's go and take our first break. For our visitors, for our listeners today. We're visiting with Cameron Porch, the head football coach at Trenton High School right here in Florida. He's also one of the district representatives for a great organization called the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to hear a lot more, so stick with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or a cool way to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag a little bit about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to thank Gipper. Your students are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made easy. And the Gipper team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, anywhere from a social media post about a big victory, or maybe even an entire newsletter that promotes your team or your athletic department. You'll find it all at Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, Gipper.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. This week's guest is Cameron Porch. He's the head football coach at Trenton High School right here in Florida. Cameron, let's go back. Take us back to that time growing up, middle school, high school. What was that like for you?
Honestly, Interlochen, being an extremely small town, there wasn't a whole lot to do. We had a McDonald's, we had a grocery store, one red light, still that way in Interlochen. Both my parents, like I said earlier, were teachers. So all I knew was school. Days off from school for me was spent usually going to teacher work days with my parents. We had a big yard. We had the biggest yard in the neighborhood. So we had a pretty good group of friends in our neighborhood, which I lived one block from the high school, which is good and bad. So we had about 10, 12 kids that lived in our neighborhood that I went to school with right around my age. So all the games, football, basketball, baseball, we all played at my house. So we played everything and always were outside. It was kind of cool. Everybody knew my dad from working at the middle school, and still to this day, I'll have people that are 25 years older than me that go, "Oh, Porch, yeah, did your dad teach social studies at middle school?" And so, that's the kind of realm I'm getting into now. Also, being older, I'm seeing what he went through. But it was great. Kind of a rite of passage out where I live. We had a small grocery store called Hitchcock's that everybody had to work in that came through, it seemed like, at the high school there. But just small town. That's kind of why I prefer to be in small town schools and all that nowadays. Just kind of going back to my roots constantly.
Now, you mentioned earlier in our opening segment, I think you said that you had 4 different coaches at the high school. Did I get that right?
I've been a head coach at 4 different schools.
Oh, you've been a head coach at 4 different schools. What was your high school experience like? See, I'm much, much older than you. I went to high school and college back in the 70s, but our high school football team, we won 3 games in 3 years. But I don't have any memories of, the coach sucks or we suck. Just every week, I think our coaches did a great job of, hey, who are we playing this week? Oh, we want to beat those guys. And we'd had a great week of practice. Sometimes it'd be a close game. Sometimes it wouldn't. But what was your high school experience like?
very similar, actually. We were not very good. Um, we won one game my senior year, and uh, my sophomore year, we actually broke the record for longest losing streak in the state, which was 43 games at that time. So I saw a lot of losing in my high school career and growing up, and I worked around the program a lot just because my dad was a teacher there. Um, so the experience of winning was extremely rewarding, probably more rewarding than most my age at that time. So I knew, I think, playing there and going to school there and knowing the community didn't take much pride in their football team, what it was going to take for me to not experience that or not have the kids that I coach experience that consistently, because I'd been through it. I saw how hard it was on a community, on a high school, on kids, and that losing culture, man, it takes hold and it's hard to shake. So that's part of my motivation is being a part of that culture for so long in high school.
Yeah, it's funny how those types of experiences, can impact us. Um, I played some small college football. We weren't, champions or anything like that, but we won a few games. But as I got into coaching, I remember I heard this from an old Grizzly coach as a young pup just out of college, and he would say, "Football is fun, but winning is more fun." And what he meant was, football, the hitting, the sprints, the sled, all of those things, the physical part of football, that was fun, but winning was more fun. And so we were going to do the things that winners do. We're going to practice hard. We're going to support our teammates. We're going to go to class, all those things. And it just had a huge impact on me as a young coach. Any similar types of stories? I know you mentioned a couple of your mentors, but anything happened for you in your young coaching career that just helped solidify what you already knew, that football was fun?
Yeah, I mean, we all know if you're going to play the game of football, you better love it because it ain't easy, and you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs. I played for a guy that coached at the University of Georgia and the University of Arkansas, Elon University. So he coached at the highest level, and he knew what it took to prepare us, and we all loved him. And even though we weren't winning, we never blamed him or said it was his fault or anything like that. We tried to take lessons from him, and I still remember some things that he said to me to this day. And my weightlifting coach in high school also was a legend. Everybody loved him, great motivator. Learned a lot from him. So I was under two guys in my high school days that I still, to this day, 20 years later, use a lot of the things that they taught me, at least the motivational side of things that they taught me in preparing our kids. But, that's all I knew. My first 5 years, like I said earlier, were at Interlochen High School. So all I knew was those guys. So that's the tools that I used immediately. And since then, every chance I get or every year, it seems like I'm growing. I'm still just building on that foundation that they initially set down for.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's how it's got to be. You always keep learning. Let's go and jump up to your college experience. Anything from that period of time that you took with you in a positive way onto your coaching career?
Not necessarily in college. I didn't play football in college. I was a runt. I played a lot in high school, probably because we were such a small school and not very good. If I was at a bigger school and had some good football players around me, I probably wouldn't have been able to play very much. When I graduated, I was 5'7", 135 pounds, soaking wet, and not fast. So, I never hung my hat on being able to get to the next level and play or anything like that. I was able to have any success at all on the football field because I loved the game of football from a very young age, and I knew every position on the field. I could play anywhere because I just paid attention. It meant something to me, so I listened to everything that was done around me. And when I was in college, going to college and working, I started coaching 1 year out of high school. So while I was going to college, I'd rush over and go to practice, and that's what I looked forward to in my day. So I ended up getting my degree from St. Leo University. I went to St. John's, and I also got another degree from Valencia College in Orlando. So I went to school for a long time, and I do not want to go back. I'm done with school at this point. But my college days were not, unfortunately for me, were not filled with playing. But I did get to start coaching before most do. So I feel like I can turn that into a positive if I want to.
Oh no, absolutely. I know a number of coaches that have had similar experiences. They were going to college, but they were working full time, but also coaching, and they weren't playing. So no, absolutely, I love it. Great head start on that coaching career. Let's go and take another break. We're visiting today with Cameron Porch. He's the head football coach at Trenton High School, just outside of Gainesville, Florida. Also, the one of the district reps for an organization called the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to hear about both of those stops here in a moment. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown Ticketing team is going to help you make the best online ticketing solutions. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd like to thank the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration for their support. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get more information, go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We also want to thank our good friends at Home Campus. Now, Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. The student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. For more information, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Don't forget to mention the podcast. Homecampus.com. You're going to be very glad you did. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Cameron, you shared your journey so far as a football coach here in the state of Florida, and now you're at Trenton High School. What attracted you to this position? What was your assessment coming in? And obviously, congratulations, you had a playoff run this year. Share with our listeners how it all came about.
Well, my first head coaching job was at Bronson High School in 2012. That's when I was 26, and that's in the same area, right outside of Gainesville, west of Gainesville. We were pretty decent. We got things turned around at Bronson pretty quick. Year 2 and 3, we were very competitive, and Bronson hadn't been. The only reason that we didn't go farther is because Trenton was in our district. And from 2011 to 2016, Trenton was very, very good. Won 2 state championships, went to a 3rd state championship, and just loaded with talent those years. Very uncharacteristically loaded with talent for Trenton over the years. So when I was in Central Florida at Mount Dora in 2020 to 2022, I was kind of looking to get closer to home again, and Trenton popped up, and I still had some ties there from my time in the area. So I ended up going and taking that job. When I got there, it had fallen on hard times a little bit. We were extremely young. My first year, we started 5 8th graders on varsity, and it was a struggle. We didn't win any game. We knew coming in it was going to be tough, though. Got things going in the right direction off the field. We had 13 kids ineligible my first spring. team GPA was really low. So we had to, attack those things in the weight room and just the all around atmosphere. Year two, we won 5 games. And then going into year three, 4th of July week, we lost from 4th of July week to the first week of camp, we lost 14 kids. 7 transfers, a few quit because they didn't want to play without their buddies. And then we had a few season ending injuries first week of camp. So this year was going to be a real, real struggle. We have 0 seniors on the team. First team I've ever coached, no seniors on it. But just a resilient group of kids, battled all year, grew together, and it's the most I've seen a team grow from week one to the end of the year. It ended up making a run at the end of the year, and I mean, it was exactly what we always preach to the kids. It's not about where you start, it's about where you finish.
You know, coaches are always, wondering about, that one thing, and it's never one thing, to turn around a program or to take it to the next level. What are some things that you have found in your time at Trenton that have just been instrumental in being able to elevate the program and get it going in the direction that you want it to?
Head coach is my baby is the weight room. I love the weight room. Not only was I addicted to it in school myself and after school, lifting Olympically, but it's the only place that you can constantly see self progression. And so I use that as a huge tool for our kids to grow and use it as team chemistry. And the kids get addicted to it quick. I mean, what kid doesn't love watching their numbers go up and get stronger and physically change? But at the same time, you're doing that, you're growing as a person through difficult times and failing and doing those things together with your teammates. And that goes in hand with really the second thing for me, which is relationships. I love being around the kids. I tell my kids every day that I love them, and we get to grow all season together and really develop those relationships off the field before we get on the field together. So those two things to me are the biggest keys in turning around a program.
From a leadership standpoint, what's something that you found to be particularly successful at helping develop student leadership within the program? It used to be, again, 100 years ago, when you became a senior, you were automatically a captain. Well, some kids, senior or otherwise, they just don't have that leadership tool naturally. And I think good coaches help develop leaders. What's something that you do to help develop leaders in your program?
Similar to what we do with our coaches. I mean, I try to empower our guys. The best teams are the ones that govern themselves, right? So we do something that I really kind of hang my hat on over the years. Twice a year, we draft teams, and I pick captains. Typically, it's based on the size of the team, so it can be anywhere from 6 to 10 captains. And we bring them into the war room, and they draft their teams, and we have a list of positive and negative criteria to earn points. And then we have a pretty sizable prize at the end of it for them, not just a T-shirt we toss them. This year we got them Axiom helmets for the winning team, which is a substantial prize. Those things are, it's attendance in school, attendance at practice, weight room numbers, new max, things like that. We grade check every week, positive points for A's and B's, negatives for D's and F's. And we have the kids really kind of take control. So the captains really take charge of their own team. I don't stay on them anymore. Takes a little bit off my plate, puts a little bit more on their plate, allows them to grow up in a hurry. And like you said, with seniors, we had 0 seniors this year. So we had captains that were in 8th grade. We had captains that were in 9th, 10th grade. It doesn't matter. If you do things the right way and you do what I ask you to do, I'm going to consider you for one of those captain roles. And the kids love it. So it's just been one of the tools I've used big time over the years.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, merit-based leadership. Um, Cameron, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, we have a lot of obviously ADs, but we have a lot of football coaches too that listen. If somebody wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, find out more, just ask you to become part of their network. What's the best way that they can connect with Cameron Porch?
I'm on X. It's at Cameron_Porch. My email address is porchc@mygcsd.org. I answer things pretty quickly. I'm not, locked onto my phone like kids are nowadays, but I check it pretty regularly. So I get back with anybody in a hurry, and that's how I learn. I try to find contact info for all kinds of coaches and reach out. So I'm appreciative of the people that have responded to me and given me their time over the years. So I try to do the same thing.
Okay. Well, no, that's great. We appreciate it. And we'll give that email and that contact information out again at the end of the podcast. We're visiting with Cameron Porch. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask Cameron to share about the Florida Coaches Coalition and his involvement and why you should be involved, even if you're not a coach in Florida. Let's take that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards for their support of the podcast. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. And we want to thank our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. But when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users. Find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Cameron, one of the reasons that you're on is that the director of the Florida Coaches Coalition, Dr. Andrew Ramjet, who's been on our podcast, asked me to reach out to his district coordinators, football coaches throughout the state that are involved with the Florida Coaches Coalition to kind of share their take on it, why it's important. You're one of those district directors. So I guess maybe share with our listeners, who some of them are not from Florida, but share with them what the mission of the Florida Coaches Coalition is, why you think it's important, kind of a Captain Obvious question, and maybe, your perspective on how things have played out over the last couple of years that the coalition has been around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge undertaking. It really is. And it's taken a few years to get rolling anyway, but I think that people are starting to take notice of it. Really, the big focus, which I think everybody that knows what the coalition is at this point knows, that the ultimate goal is to get coaches in Florida paid. Fair wage, minimum wage. Nobody in Florida makes that. It's pretty sad. We produce some of the best athletes and coaches in America. And we don't rival anybody when it comes to coaches pay. Most of what we've figured out so far, it's less than $1 in some instances, just over $1 in some sports, depending on how much time you spend. And regardless of what you're going to make, everybody that's worth their weight is going to put forth effort regardless of the supplement amount. My supplement in my county is $3,300. It doesn't matter to me though what that is. I'm going to still work the same amount of hours. I'm still going to give the same effort to the kids and to our assistant coaches in our community. But it sure would be nice at some point to get a little something back and feel that worth back to us coaches. So Andrew reached out a few months ago to a bunch of people about looking for regional directors to help him because he does so much as it is. So I just reached out back to him and said I'd be willing to help. I have a pretty decent outreach and I'd like to at least be able to help this movement out in some capacity. I ended up taking the basically north of Tampa and south of the Big Bend, kind of the west of I-75 area. So I'm in charge of those counties, which is more of your rural counties in north central Florida. And really probably one of the toughest areas in Florida to reach because a lot of the coaches in that area still aren't clued into what the coalition is. They want to make more, but they don't have the information necessary to help the movement get started. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do really is use my platform as a coach in my area to get people educated on what we're trying to do so that other people can get involved and heighten the movement, heighten the awareness of the movement.
Boy, that was a great summary. And again, I don't know what it's like in other states. I think here in Florida, and I've been in Florida since 2000 as a coach and as an athletic director. But one of our neighboring states, Georgia, is through their system that's in place, and that system in air quotes, they're able to compensate their coaches, not just football coaches, but all coaches at a different scale than what's happens here in Florida. In Florida, it's all through the local school district, which is typically through the local teachers union, and the salaries, the stipends, whatever you want to call it, for high school coaches, in many cases, haven't changed in 20 or even 30 years. You talk about your stipend of $3,200. My first stipend as a head football coach in Florida was, and this was 2001, was I believe $3,500, and so that'll give you an idea of where we're at. The coalition has been about awareness, getting the word out. Hey, these are hardworking educators that parents are entrusting literally the lives of their kids. And we need to pay them a little bit more. You can do the math. It's definitely less than minimum wage. It's oftentimes less than $1 an hour. Sometimes it's pennies on the hour for the amount of time a coach puts in. And once again, this is not just about football. Football, I think, gets a lot of the press, but things that have happened. There's a much, the conversation is not just local now. It's happening in our state capital. We have state legislators that are talking about it. A plan has been put forth. It's not a bill yet, I don't believe, but I think that's the plan to actually pay coaches a legal minimum wage based on the amount of time they put in. Now, I've seen the plan. Not everybody agrees with it, but it's certainly better than what we have right now. And I think it's something that is certainly flexible over time. I don't want to put you on the spot, Cameron, as far as details, because we didn't talk about that going into the podcast, but what's your impression of and we're just going to call it the proposal right now. How do you see that being received by your coaching peers?
By the coaching community, I think it's going to be received well because all of us want to make more, obviously, right? And be compensated fairly for what we do. I think where you're going to get combative groups of people is your teachers unions and your teachers that don't coach, that want to worry about teachers first, which I totally get, but we're represented by a totally different entity. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of coaches first, because that's what we're talking about here. The problem that most people see is, where is the money coming? And there's a bunch of different avenues that are being discussed and things like that. But one of the newest ones is the Hard Rock Casino and gambling platform, which takes in millions and millions of dollars, and trying to work that into a system to give back to coaches in the state of Florida. I'm optimistic that it's going to get done. The goal, obviously, is for this to go into effect next year. In January, hopefully it becomes a bill and it puts the onus into the counties first. But we'll see in January.
Yeah, again, I'm glad you mentioned that. We've seen the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA. I'm going to throw out a number. 5 years ago, it was, gambling is evil. Now 5 years later, they are literally partners with all the gambling platforms, DraftKings, Hard Rock, you name it. I have full disclosure. I've got the Hard Rock app on my phone. I make my big $5 wagers every week.
That's right.
But you're right. It's a tremendous source of revenue. Why can't some of that money, help pay for this project? So it's going to be interesting. Um, Shifting gears a little bit, and again, it is timely. We're recording this on December 3rd, so it was only a couple days ago. Over the college football weekend, there were a couple of incidents that I guess were not the norm, but I want to ask your opinion as a fan, as a coach, as a leader. Uh, the whole flag planting issue, if you will. We saw two teams in particular do it after victories, planting their flag on the home team's stadium logo, and all the aftermath. Because I think that's the point. Let's name names. Michigan had a great win, a great win. Beat their rival. They were an underdog. They won. But nobody's talking about the win. They're talking about the flag and the fights and all that stuff. So, Cameron, I'm putting you on the spot again. As a head coach, what's your thinking? What's your stance on flag planting?
Honestly, I may be an outlier here. The games that happened then are huge rivalries, and I love it. I love it. I think that just puts the more hatred and fuels the fire for next year, and those teams to go 12 months with the motivation. You know, we're going to put that clock on the wall and that calendar on the wall, and it's a countdown till we play whoever again. Nobody likes it when it's done to them, but you know how you prevent that? Beat them.
No, and again, on that last point, I'm 100% with you. Okay. If you don't want somebody to plant that flag on your logo, hey, beat them. And that talk about, oh, they were disrespecting us when they planted the flag. Well, guess what? They already disrespected you when they beat your butt on the field. You had your chance. Don't go, saying, okay, now we're going to fight you. Personally, and again, I coached a long time ago. I've been out of the game for a while. Flag planting wasn't a thing. Even outside of, I'll date myself, Terrell Owens for the 49ers dancing on the Cowboys logo, that really wasn't a thing. I would tell our teams, and we had a couple, one in particular, very, let's say, fierce rivalry. Um, when we win, we're going to find our teammates. We're going to find our fans. We're going to celebrate with each other. We already played the game. We won. Let them stew. We were not going to plant a flag. We weren't going to dance on their logo. But again, if we got beat, hey, go shake their hand, look them in the eye, and let's get over to our sideline. We'll talk about next week's game or something. But the whole posturing, and again, you're much closer to the age of those current college football players than I am, but that whole posturing and, oh, they're not going to disrespect us. Shut the heck up. You had your chance. They beat you. Get the heck off the field. So that's my soapbox.
Well, I mean, full disclosure too. I like it from a standpoint of me not being involved. I've never had a team go do that or anything. You know, you always have those jaw jacking after the game. Heck, Friday night we got knocked out in the Final Four to a hated rival, and they beat us. I mean, they controlled the game, and they had plenty to say to us after the game. But there's nothing more than you can do but kind of nod your head and walk away.
Oh, again, it is. That's all you can do. I'm going to tell one quick story. We're playing our rival, and long story short, we won it on a 2 point conversion to end the game, and the silence from their fans on the opposite side of the field, it was truly deafening. Our kids were celebrating, our fans were on the field, but I just happened to glance over and see their sideline that had the whole game just been, shouting us down. It was just, it was one of the greatest feelings ever, to see them quieted. So, Cam- Cameron, thanks again for coming on. Again, I know your season just wrapped up. You probably, can't wait to, take a break. One more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit on football or leadership, or just add you to their network, what's the best way they can get a hold of Cameron Porch?
I'm on X. It's at Cameron_Porch, and my email is porchc at mygcsd.org.
Well, Cameron, thanks again for sharing. All the best with Trenton High School. All the best with the Florida Coaches Coalition. We're going to have to get you back on maybe in the fall, get a season preview and get an update of all things with the FCC.
All right. I appreciate it.
For our listeners, we appreciate you. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, and we share stories and best practices. So hopefully you'll join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks a lot.